welcome and thank you very much indeed for coming along to this workshop, which is called Performing Ethics. This is brought to you by a group which we call Tackling Ethical Issues group that's been working on ethics for some time. And we started off by producing a set of ethical guidelines, which are at the back if any of you would like to take them if you haven't got them already. We've also produced some case studies and commentaries about ethical issues and dilemmas that arise in community-based participatory research. But having done this for a while, with this group that I'll introduce to you in a minute, we thought there was a lot of head work going on, thinking of how to use the guidelines, how to resolve a dilemma, what's right, what's wrong, what is social justice here, whose rights are being infringed. And we would have rational discussions centering on these cases. But we felt that in our experience of doing community-university partnership research, that a lot of the ethical issues are just happening all the time in our everyday movements, gestures, and relationships with people. And in order to get at that and to think, well, how should we respond when somebody has been sexist, racist, when the academic has perhaps inadvertently, misused their power, or when the community partner has been rude to the university vice-chancellor, which has happened in my case. Good on him. Anyway, the vice-chancellor, I mean, for being so polite. So, how do we respond? How does it feel? And in order to decide, well, what is the right, the best, the appropriate course of action, sometimes it helps to put yourself in the situation. And for me, as a university researcher, it's not always easy to think what it might be like to be a young person in a youth club in Manchester. So we decided we would like to work with Francis Rifkin, a theatre practitioner, to do forum theatre. And Francis will tell you a bit more about that shortly. That explains why we've been working now for probably about a year, since the last AHRC Connected Communities Showcase, which is always a golden opportunity to take some funding in order to do a new development. So our new development was Francis and Forum Theatre in Edinburgh, and we've enhanced it a bit, haven't we? I think we've enhanced it, and we've now got our next booklet, Performing Ethics, which is hot off the press last week. And so what we'd like to do with you today is a few exercises just to warm us up, which Francis will introduce you to. Then a short scenario, which you can already see we've given to is based in the LGBT Youth North West Youth Club and involves, not surprisingly, an academic and a youth worker. And then we will invite you, the audience, to look at that scenario and make some suggestions about what one or two of the heroes might do differently in order to make that scenario work out better. And we would love you, in fact Francis said we would require you, request you, please, to participate. It's not too onerous, we're a nice, small, friendly group, so it would involve you making a suggestion, perhaps popping up and putting yourself in the place of the hero and doing a different sort of action or response. That's what we've got for you today. But before I hand over to Francis, I will briefly ask people to introduce themselves, and I'll tell you who I am as well. Though mine, sadly, is the only name on your programme, because that's how these programmes come out. But this is a partnership project between Durham University. My name is Sarah Banks. I use the female pronoun, and I'm co-director of the Centre for Social Justice and Community Action at Durham University, working with Francis Rifkin.
Francis Rifkin, I'm a theatre director and workshop facilitator, and I use the female pronoun, and we've been working together, as you said, for a year. Also working on a project in London at Serpentine Gallery with a group called Implicated Theatre, and doing a whole lot of things in mental health too, so cover quite a wide range of work.
Heather?
My name is Heather Davidson. I'm here from LGBT North West, which is the youth group for 14 to 25-year-olds who play for the Manchester City Centre. And I volunteer with them.
My name is Tobias Ashton. I use the male pronouns. I'm in my youth group.
My name is Claire, and I use female pronouns, so she or her, and I usually work with
I'm Rita
nominating female pronoun, and I'm here.
I'm Leonore, I work at the University of Manchester and I'm also a trustee with LGBT Northwest. I'm Luke, I use the male pronouns, so he or him, and I'm also here with my youth group, the LGBT Northwest.
Amelia?
My name's Amelia and I work for LGBT Youth Northwest and I use female pronouns like she or her.
Excellent, thank you. And just a couple of other things. We do have a Welsh version of our easy read booklet. So any of you who are working with young people, people with learning disabilities in Welsh, please take some copies of this. And we also given you, I know, an evaluation form, there's more on the back. Please do fill it in before you leave the copy of the text. So without further ado, I'm now going to hand over to Francis.
Yes, hi. Before I go any further, what I'm going to do is tell you a bit about the ground rules that we've put up. In the ethics format, we always ask that people do clear ground rules before they work. Now, Augusto Boal never did that, ever, which theatre people don't, in fact, do ground rules, but we do them and we're very careful with them, as much as anything, so that everybody has some control over the group. Although there is a facilitator or a joker, which is what I am. Nevertheless, the agreement to take part is really important to do it in the right way. I'll just read them out to you. Listen to each other, challenge supportively, use material you're okay with. That's when people are doing their own improvisations. Check out that people are okay for touching. Confidentiality, negotiate difficulties. You can say no, but we put a ground rule in which Sarah has already mentioned, called Have a Go, Participate. And we do look to you, as this is a research project, to have a go and see how it feels to move from the position of the audience to the position of the performer. Because according to Boal, what he creates when he does his theatre are not spectators and actors, but spectactors. We have done a piece of theatre which looks at issues of ethics in participatory research, which is of interest to everyone here. And therefore, you probably all have a point of view and a thing you can do. And you'll see that the request to replace the hero, we'll make that later, and to take part in the piece, even in just a few syllables, we would really welcome it, to see what it's like and how it works. Ask for help if you need it. No talking when asked to be silent, and switch off phones, please. Have I switched mine off? Probably not. Okay. Yes.
Can I play devil's advocate and just check what confidentiality means in this situation? Do we have to not talk about this when we leave?
No. What it really means, that's an example of a set of ground rules where you're doing group work and people are using their own stories to make forum theatre. You don't expect people to tell personal stories outside the group, or to tell it between small groups without permission, though you may in fact make a piece of theatre out of it. Here it's very unlikely that there'll be a need for confidentiality. You can talk about what you see as much as you like. Is that clear? Good, okay. Was there anything else that we have to say here? No. Okay, well, this is the first step in becoming spectactors, because Boal always absolutely insisted that the audience should take part. So if you'd like all to stand up and go over into that space over there. The actors will come with you and will assist you. Now this is called Cover the Space. It's one of Boal's basic exercises. And I always find it really useful getting people mildly uncomfortable initially and then giggling. So what I want you to do is just walk all over the space. And just walk around as if you're just walking around on a nice summer morning or whatever. And as you walk over the space, I'd like you to look at the floor and try and cover the space really evenly. So there's about the same space between everybody. Keeping the space really even, leaving no big gaps. Go a bit faster. Don't bang into the furniture, that's a health and safety request. It'll damage the furniture, of course. Keep moving, move a bit faster. Shop a bit more quickly. This is like Oxford Street or centre of Cardiff on a heavy shopping day, the market. And just covering the stage, covering the space evenly, a bit faster. Use all your skills and not bump into people, as we have many skills like this. A bit faster. going in different directions. And now as you walk, just catch the eye of everybody else, smile and nod, say hi, have a greeting. You can have any greeting you like. You can do watcher, hi, wow. Delightful greeting, new greetings, greetings you haven't thought of before, to everybody. Louder, really loud. Freeze, and now I want you to do the exact opposite. I want you to show total disapproval of each other. Walk around, utter disapproval. Whatever you like. Just look at each other and disapprove. For fun. This is acting. Go. But you've got to look at people to do it. And giggling is perfect. Giggle lots and make a sound with it. You can change your disapproval. You can go hurt or what or ooh. A bit louder. Add a gesture. Add a disapproval gesture. Oh my God! Oh my God! Free.
Sir.
Just a bit bigger. Now what I'd like you to do now, I'd like to pull the actors out of this bit of the exercise. Just go around, shake hands, introduce yourself very briefly to 3 people, just giving your name. Very few people don't know actually. Just shake hands or greet in any way you like, bow, shake, wave. Christina. One more request and then we'll get on with this performance. Sarah.
What I'd like you to do is to share with the person that you're currently talking to what are 1 or 2 of the ethical issues that concern you in research that happens between communities and universities. Ethical issues that do with professional rights, social power,
Go. Money.
I'm just going to ask Claire to briefly introduce the scenario and then we'll show you
So my name's Heather and I'm from LGBT Youth Northwest, which is a network, this is a network of LGBT youth groups. This particular group that are here today are from our Manchester youth group. And the scene was developed while me, Sarah, and Francis and Claire were in Durham, where we took participants through a set of activities so they could develop their own scenarios. And then this has been then taken by our youth group to then develop into the scene that fits to them. So, do you want to begin?
Hi Toby, how you doing? You good? Not bad, just hanging out of Ruby right now waiting for good.
Hey, look, you played a video game. I've been out of 10. Are you proud of me?
I am very proud of you.
Just what we're doing today.
Yeah, go on.
Good. So we're going to do some art later on, but do you remember the university project we're doing?
No, I don't.
No?
Mentioned it for the
We're making a film. It's going to be really cool. Yeah. Oh, they're here, so they can tell you a bit about it.
That's quick.
Yeah,
Alright.
I'll let them in.
Okay.
Hi, Claire. It's so great to see you. So excited about this. Is Luke, Dr. Luke Smith, is going to be my RA on the project. He's going to help us out. So I'm just so excited. He's finding up the funding. I'm sorry, I know we said we'd stay a bit, but actually, sorry, we're in a bit of a rush because actually it's fantastic because I've managed to get the committee to agree that they'd sign this off really quickly. So if you just sign a participation agreement and we can dash back to the office by 5, I'll be able to get signed off and then we can start in a month's time rather than waiting for 3.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. So if you can just sign it and then we'll be back and...
Is this about all of us?
It's the group.
This is just the participation agreement.
Tell you what, how about I'll explain to these guys.
Is that okay? Yeah, Luke will tell you about the project and I'll just get Claire to sign it off.
Yes. Basically, as your youth worker told you anything about it at all?
No.
At all?
I'm so excited. So we'll be back in a few weeks and then we can set up the project and stuff. So Luke, if you're ready, we'll get back and we'll get back. And we'll get the sign off and we'll be in touch.
I'll explain to you girls next time.
Claire, I'm really sorry. Really sorry. I'll call you tomorrow. I'll talk to Luke. And I'll be back.
Should we do smart? Let's do smart.
Yeah.
Thanks. Now, this is a piece of forum theatre, and it's got 2 heroes in it. Real forum theatre, according to Augusto Boal, only ever had one. And he calls the hero the protagonist, or the oppressed. We've decided to call the hero, not the oppressed. Because the hero is the person with the resource and impetus to do something and change something. Play asks you a question, what would you do? Depending on where you come from and what you're up to. And so we believe that we have 2 heroes in this piece. Against the rules, but there we go, rules are meant to be broken. And what we can do is we start to perform the show again, and we think about the issues that these 2 are facing. And if you see a point in which you would like to intervene and change something, you just do that. Or you shout stop. Or you come, and if you feel nervous about even clapping, you just wave at me. And it's quite easy to do. And Boal described forum as the spectacle of a failure, because what you see, yes, you, what you see is a question being asked which the people on stage don't resolve. So the spectators come on stage and change it, and in doing that they inhabit some of the feelings of what this is like as well. So what we're going to do is start the piece over again, and then as you would like, and some of you I'm sure have done this before, to come in and just do it for the hell of it really, because we're trying to find out if the piece works, what it's like to use this as a research process and as an interactive research process between the documentary and the physical, actual research of the art. Okay, so shall we take it from the top again?
Hi Toby, how you doing?
Not bad. Just hanging out with Ruby, waiting for tonight.
Hey guys, look at this great video game. I've given it out of 10.
Great.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, that's good.
I'm proud of you.
Do you want to know what we're doing tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to do smart, but do you remember the university project? You do. No, we mentioned it. We're going to make a film. It's going to be really cool, really great. Yeah?
Okay.
Well, and we've got a volunteer. Who would you like to replace?
I don't know what to do
That's brilliant.
Okay. Who would you like to replace?
We've got to replace you, actually.
Me?
Yes. Sorry, Toby. Yes, just... Thank you. Okay, just where do you want to go from?
You know what we're going to do tonight?
Yes. Do you want to know what we're going to do tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to do some art, but do you remember the university project we're going to do?
No.
Yeah, you do. No, we're going to make a film. It's going to be really cool.
Can you tell me a bit more about it?
Yeah, they're here actually, so they can tell you. Like, I'll let them in. They can tell you.
Make sure they tell
Oh yeah, it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Hi there.
Nice to
So
meet you.
excited
Hi.
to see you. This is Luke, Dr. Luke Smith. He's going to be the researcher on the project. It's great. I'm so excited we finally got the funding. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're actually in a rush today. I know that we said to
Is this the people you talked about?
Yes, yeah, this is
Welcome back.
this is
Hello.
explain to you.
We
It's
just
fine, I'll
need
explain.
to sign off the partnership agreement, actually, and then we'll be back to start the project proper in about like 4 weeks, and then we'll
Yeah,
run
do you want
through
me to
everything.
just explain?
Yeah, Luke.
Right,
We'll
meet
explain the
Luke. Go and
project
meet Luke.
to you.
Yeah, go
and then,
ahead. Stop.
So,
That was a very good attempt. It takes practice, obviously, but it's very interesting in this piece. We've worked on it, seeing what the moment is where that balance might change. You nearly got it, didn't you? It was very, very close, but they managed to shuffle you off. It's structure. What's interesting is that as you work on this, you realise there are these hidden hierarchical structures which pop out in this deeply personal, pleasant sort of way. That was very good. Thank you. Excellent. If we go back to the point at which Ilona came in and work on from there and see if there's another chord.
We had another cover.
Oh, brilliant. Come on, where do you want to go from? Where we were. Good.
Great.
Really, do you want to go from this moment? Yeah. Okay.
I have thought about who I was next to.
Well, then let's work through it. Come
I
on.
guess I'll replace what you mean. Oh yeah, you want to
You want to?
No, sorry. Oh, you mean previous one? Oh, you mean yeah.
No, you don't. No, what you're really doing, I think, is replacing the character.
You're right.
So let's put the character back on the stage at the point at which you want to come in. Okay, can we just? This is the point at which you get dragged across by Luke.
It was just before that. So yeah, it was when.
Okay.
When.
So over here.
Yeah.
Yes, do it. Just do it.
yeah, it'll be Toby. Oh yeah, no, you're being Toby. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I'm back on the block. Yeah, so if you can just sign it off and then.
Yeah, I read it.
It's really long.
It's just
It's very long.
I'm not going to be prepared to participate in something that I haven't read.
Tell you what, guys, shall I just explain to the young people?
Yeah. Are you alright just being explained to rather than?
Yeah, this is just a partnership agreement with the university. So we'll have.
But if it's a partnership, then I guess we.
Seriously, it'll be really boring for you. Like, I was in your position a few years ago.
There's a lot of long words.
minutes.
A lot
I
of
must
really
read
long words.
Like, it's difficult.
Are you comfortable with this?
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's a standard kind of university
really sorry.
agreement.
Just one moment. Could we
But we actually need to get it back in I've just arranged for the Vice Chancellor to get it signed off. It's fine.
Well, I actually probably haven't read it. We haven't had a chance to read it, so I don't think we
It's
can
just a
sign it.
standard form.
No, I agree.
and they
If it's
always
just a standard form, it will
It's a partnership agreement between the university and the youth workers. So we'll be back actually.
Right, so you're not going to want us to be in the film?
No, we will, but we'll be back. Yeah, but we'll be back.
How about the rest of your young people are in the film, you know, the ones who are comfortable with it?
Oh yeah, if you're not comfortable with it, that's
Oh,
fine.
okay, all right. So I'm just going to go talk to the other people who might be in the film. Thanks very much.
Oh.
So do you want to just sign it and then we'll be up front?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Do you want to just sign it now?
So, Mike will be in the film.
Yeah.
Don't worry, and we'll come back and explain it in 2 weeks.
Awesome, great, we've got it done.
All right. Okay, cool. So,
I mean, if you don't want to be in it, then we can. There'll be other people who will want to be.
no, that's
involved.
good. We're going to talk about how we might be in it, and then we'll approach them with a partnership agreement.
Where do you get your training?
Having an older brother.
Your father's a solicitor. A teacher. Okay, fine. All right. So that was very nice. But what it mainly took, wasn't it? It was real assertiveness and determination not to be done over. Let's take it back to the place where you stopped and go on. Does anybody else want to volunteer at this point? Please go a bit further. Yeah. Okay. And remember, there's another replaceable person here.
Okay. So from the beginning, Francis? Or from...
I think from the entry, from the entrance.
Feel a bit left now, my dog's been good.
Okay, well they're here actually, so they can, they can explain a little bit. I'll answer the door.
Hi, Claire. So excited. It's great to have this funding. This is Luke. Dr. Luke Smith is going to be the researcher on the project.
Do you want to have a seat?
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. Hi there. But I'm sorry, we're in a bit of a rush because actually, if you could just sign off the partnership agreement, I've arranged with the university that we can fast track it and so we can start in a month's time, which is just amazing. I mean, they never agreed to this. So if you can just sign the partnership agreement and then...
sorry, Mr. Trump, but this is about all of us because I only heard about today.
Well, that's okay. I mean, because we'll be back and we'll
Tell you what, shall I explain to these guys?
Yeah, actually, you can tell you about the project and then we'll just like and then we'll be back.
Yeah.
And if you just
Right, so has your youth worker told you anything about the project at all?
not really. Right. Okay, I want this
I'd like to instead.
Oh, who are you
Is that
replacing?
okay? Can I replace you, please? Of course.
You're not replaceable.
I'm going to replace you.
Look, if you can, look at the form sign.
I just think we're going to have to pause it. These two don't seem to know what's going on, and I don't feel.
I didn't know.
I mean, that's okay because we can come back and explain it properly. Once we've got the form run through, because it's probably not much time, not much point time doing that.
So these are the stages. Have you seen?
This is just like a formal kind of university thing. It's not. Look, we need to get it into the university by 5 o'clock. Otherwise, because I've spent 2 days trying to get this fast tracked, okay? So we get this in, and then we'll come back in 4 weeks' time, and then we'll be able to explain everything. We'll run through it all because this is just a partnership agreement. It's just the logistics, and then the actual what we actually do. We can talk about that right from the beginning once we come through.
So bits that are in there, can we just change it after?
Well, yeah, in terms of the project we can change. I mean, this is just about how the finance is arranged with the university, and then just
in 4 weeks. Can't we just sign it then?
No, because this is to allow the project to start and to allow the funding to come through. And this will fast track the funding, so we get the funding in a month's time and we can start it sooner. Otherwise, we're going to have to wait 3 months, which just seems a bit of a shame because, now we're all fired up and ready to go. So, but what we actually do is really up for grabs because
I'm sorry. I want to be, but I'm not. If you sign that, then I'm not.
But this is just an agreement with the youth workers, so and with LGBT Youth Northwest, so you're not committed to anything. So if you don't want to be involved, if you don't want to be involved, that's fine. We might be around in 4 weeks' time after all, anyway. So we'll just work with the young people who are happy to be involved, and I'll get this into the. Come on, Luke.
Can I just bring you back on stage? I'd like to hear what you say to her in the street. How could you get fired? Get out!
Shh. I would just say, Luke, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, 9 o'clock, my office. Okay? And we're going to talk about this. Because this is just not on. I spent 2 days trying to fast track this. Sorry. So that we can start the project earlier, and sooner, so that the youth group didn't have to wait this long.
Stop. Right, we're just improvising to our forum. Come. I think it's really important because what the work in Durham particularly shows the difficulties that relates to it.
We're just arguing amongst ourselves.
Can everybody see over here?
With you is where you were saying you would take it out of me, basically. So you started to take it out of me.
Yeah. So, Luke, so 9 o'clock, my office, tomorrow morning, we're going to have to talk about this.
Did I agree to be a research assistant on a project that was unethical?
It's not unethical, this is a partnership agreement.
If it's a partnership, this isn't a partnership. There's no discussion, it's not a partnership.
Yeah, we're going to do the discussion when we come back in a month's time. You've got the funding.
You've got that. They're already radical. They don't want to do it like that. We've got to do it the way that it's going to work.
Well, if you manage to deal with them properly and just...
Hang on.
The partnership agreement isn't
the reason that I couldn't have a discussion, I wanted to have a discussion you were having an unethical discussion.
It's not ethical. Claire and I have been talking about this project for a year.
I know, but
We're trying to
obviously
get
not
this funded
to the right-
long before you came on the scene. We've been working on this. We've done 3 connected communities projects before this. Okay. Exactly. So, we've worked together for a really long time. Like, you know this. You know what I told when we did
Yeah,
the
but I
interview.
always have hope it's going to get better.
Really good project. Really good. We've worked on this project. Like, this project is
I've worked on it too. I've worked on it too.
You've been working on it for 2 weeks.
Yeah, but the time I put into it, I thought was investing into something that was valuable, but actually.
But it is. I just told you. I worked on this relationship for 6 years. I did 3 years voluntary work before we got the funding. We had 3 connected communities projects.
There is a scene before this, isn't there? Before anybody comes here on this project, there is a scene. And here at Durham, didn't we? We saw a lot of stuff about the difficulty of setting up the project between the group in the community and the university, and the role of ethics and the absence of an general ethical agreement. Would anybody like to try to speak? I'm sorry, Nick. Just come over here. Would anybody like to try to speak to me before the meeting with these people about how it might be approached? Yes, come.
I've already volunteered.
Well, would anybody like to try that? Yes, good, okay. Let's have you all just sitting down like gods in your youth club. If you go in front there.
So, am I at the university with my character in it?
You are the junior researcher.
I'm junior researcher.
And you are wanting
So before they go in.
Before you go in, you want to know stuff.
Right.
Just come out the front here because they're quiet.
So how are we going to get the young people participating in this? We need to hear their voices.
Yeah,
we need to get
that's-
consent from them, not just from
Yeah, that will be fine. We'll have consent forms we're going to do that in a month's time. But this is just the partnership agreement. Yeah, when the project starts. Oh no, not now. There's no point in doing it now because we're not actually going to start the project probably for a month. So they'll have forgotten in a month's time.
So you're going to get them to sign something and you haven't even...
It's just the youth worker who's going to sign the partnership agreement with the university. And it's not about the logistics of the project, so all of that.
So today we're going to sit down there with the young people and have a consultation with them and find out what they think.
No, I explained to you that I've managed to get the VC to agree we could start this project sooner because we've been talking about it already such a long time. So I didn't want to wait another 3 months before we actually got the funding.
Okay, so the youth workers already negotiated with the young people, and they've already got their consent.
When we put the grant application in a year ago, we did it. But like the nature of youth work, I did explain this to you, is that the young people change all of the time. It's quite a kind of transient group.
Okay, so
and that's why I don't want to start the conversation now, is because in a month's time, there might actually be a different bunch of kind of young people. Right, okay.
Steve, I'm offended.
It's okay, I am too. Yeah, so this is just a partnership agreement. We're just going to get it signed off today and we'll be back in a month to start the project proper.
But you said earlier that you work with this group.
Yeah.
You would know that this group have to have meetings where they talk with you before they agree to do anything.
Yeah, so we have those. I explained. Yeah, look. I mean, I explained when you did the interview. I explained that this project's been set up for like a year because you know how long it takes to connect to communities. So process the grant application. So we have
the
those
young people are
conversations.
going to give you the best information that they can. If
But
you
we
don't
don't
talk to them.
Yeah, we don't need that tonight. All I need is the form signed off. Like, you know,
Is there a gap here in practice? Yeah. Because I see a lot of you sort of smiling. Is there a genuine gap in the actual practice and the way things are done?
Yeah.
Or the gap between the carrying out of the project and the way it's set up? Because this academic is clearly not into the idea that the university should have a carefully contracted ethical agreement with a youth club.
They just don't understand what that is. Yes. Probably just not that they don't understand what that is. I think that's probably just likely. They don't understand what that means.
No, that's right.
But I think at this point, it's actually like between me and the kind of young research assistant. Because actually, Claire and I, as youth worker, had the conversations a year ago when we put the funding application in. This is just this kind of formal participation agreement. We will come back in a month's time and have all of these conversations with the young people. But actually, I've possibly kind of failed to give the new researcher enough information about kind of the nature of the project and the nature of the long-standing relationship, perhaps. I don't know.
I think there is also because when I wrote the scene, there is an opportunity that there should have been a scene, not a scene, but before the university were coming into the centre to meet Claire, there needed to be a session with the young people, which is what we do with our youth group. This is research, this is how you do it, this is what happens. This should have happened before Neve and Luke came in, because then there wouldn't be this problem.
And so there's a sensing issue. If the university wants to do a research project, they should say to the organisations, we want you to do this before we come in. I was speaking, I was saying to Sarah that would you like to suggest what we just talked about briefly for the room to do?
Which was just to go back into the pairs?
Yes.
The pairs
or fours, maybe.
Or fours. So two pairs together. You have talked about ethical issues, but to think a bit more about what were the ethical issues that came out of this scenario. And in terms of, that's a very important setup point with a community partner and university. What are some of the key points that you should take into account? So just a very short discussion, and just for 5 minutes in groups of 4.
And maybe a bit of feedback on that. So if you want to get up and run around, you can. Or stay where you are. Just a big round of applause for the performance.
Okay, we've just got about 7 minutes left. So what I'd like to do is just to take some very, very quick feedback from the groups about one or two of the issues that you were talking about. We're starting again first. And then I'll just ask you to give some quick feedback about how you found the workshop itself, and if you think any of this can be useful in your own work. And remind you not to forget these evaluation forms. Please do fill them in and leave them back. So, any issues from the groups? What about this group here? What one issue that you're looking at in Heather's group here? No?
Lots of them. Let's pick one. Talking particularly about the relationship between the established researcher and the junior researcher.
Right.
They shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place without having been properly introduced.
Yes.
It's not fair on them to just make them go through this very abbreviated process.
Right, so issues of unfairness to the junior researcher. What about another group?
Well, we spoke about how we kind of did have some empathy for Neve's character, because sometimes we are under pressure for deadlines, and we do want to rush things through. But we sort of said that even the 5 minutes that she spent arguing, you could have used to give an overview, you could to sit down and thrash out all the issues, but it would be respectful enough to win the trust of those people that you're trying to work with. So,
Any other comments? The manner. Can you speak a bit?
Rather than just saying integrity and rather than say, I'm really sorry, I've got this deadline and I wish you could observe, you say 5 minutes, to just, with silence, people silence them, say, I need to
So the importance of the manner in which we speak to people, yeah.
Even with their conditions.
Yeah. Other issues that
two main things, communication and procedure.
Yeah.
We felt that it should never have really got to this point that we saw here. That actually beforehand there should be much clearer and better transparency between the two different organisations of what agreements have been made and about best practice. It shouldn't be played out in the power dynamics that we saw before us.
Yeah, so a lot about preparation. how you communicate. Anything from other groups back there?
We talked about communication as well, but I suppose the additional issue was our relationship to bureaucracy and how we view forms. So from the point of view of the university, we're quite immune to these things. We see them as processes that get in the way of us wanting to do our work, so we expedite things. We know there's usually very little repercussions, but we just kind of have to get it done, so we just ignore the legal stuff. It's perfectly legitimate from the point of view of someone in the university. But for those that are encountering those forms for the first time, it creates a formality that is an obstacle to that partnership, and I think we need to be much more careful of how the form itself creates a boundary. So we've had this in our research, just to get people to fill in self-employment questionnaires. Everything else is fine, but the questionnaire was too long and really upset people.
Katie made a really good point that actually it seemed like funding took priority over ethics. So it was only once the funding was assured that you had to worry about ethics, and perhaps actually there's a meta problem about those being wrong around.
Yes, okay. Any other key points that anybody wants to raise?
We also had a conversation about the fact that the particular nature of this group made it really important that they were able to give consent in a meaningful way, because they might not necessarily want to be represented in a film, not knowing who's going to see it, not knowing what it's going to be necessarily about, and so on. And so, because of the nature of the group, but it was important, even more important than with sort of a different setting.
Yeah.
I think watching it, so I haven't seen it before today, but watching it from a youth work perspective, I think what would leave damage from that scene, and it was probably the throwaway comment that Ron James did somebody at the end, more than the form. But because many of us here sit with a professional hat on, we're still reading it as the professionals, so we get distracted by the form. But the misgendering of the young man at the end, saying goodbye girls, it could do longer term damage and undermining than the form.
And that goes back to the preparation beforehand between the principal investigator and the research assistant, doesn't it? That obviously they're not to have much communication about the youth group or what they're about and how to work. So the big messages there about communication. That's an extreme example, but it's not too far away actually from some of the things that we have experienced, I think, when our universities put the pressure on us and we get carried away as academics with time and pressure. So we hope that there's some ideas from that you can take away. In the booklet you will find details of some more exercises. There's a walking exercise called Occupy the Space in the booklet if you want to use that, and various other exercises that you could put into a workshop. It's not that easy to be a Francis, because Francis has been doing this for many decades and is very skilled at it. So it's not the sort of thing that you can just go and do. Some of you probably have tried it, but you can do some of the exercises with groups, and some playing out of scenarios, provided you do it in the same kind of way you pay attention to.
Could I answer that slightly?
Yeah.
What's really important when you do this, I know everybody thinks, is I must make the group comfortable. Actually, you've got to be comfortable and then they're fine. And so if you want to do the exercises, work on it a bit, try it out with friends, and then don't worry the group about it. The group will always, if you today, you thought, what on earth is she doing? Then you did it. So the main thing is for you to be comfortable with doing the exercises, and then everybody will be happy-ish, happy enough.
And we've got a couple of minutes. Yes, sorry, Karen.
Yes. I just had one. I think we're underplaying the importance of your skill here, because I think that forum theatre is a very complex vehicle. I think none of us should feel we're equipped to do forum theatre at this point. I think it's very interesting to see it working well, but if you don't research the issues properly, if you don't prepare the actors to play them properly, if you don't prepare the improvisatory aspect of how people have to pick up and move on, that sort of stuff could make the whole exercise completely undermining. So I think we need to be really careful with this model, although it's very, very good. It's very valuable.
I think that's very, very cool. That's one of the things.
But do what you're comfortable with. If you want to do an exercise, sort it up properly, try it out, get it down to as few words as possible, and play. You'll be fine. It's not for people to worry too much. Something simple could be done. But yes, I agree. I think form is more complicated.
You can do different, there are different stages as well. Before coming in and doing you can do different sorts of interactions with piece. So
Yes.
maybe start with a bit less of a intensive.
This was a very good piece, actually. It's very, very strong. It was developed primarily by Heather, and then rewritten and reworked with the group very strongly.
So it started as a piece that it was just a tableau, wasn't it? It was just a scene without any words. And then from there it then moved through different stages until it became this piece that we're now presenting to you. So there were stages before this where it was more, it was less formal than it is here. We played with those characters and thought about what those characters would feel, and then this.
Okay, well, one of the most important ethical things is to keep to time. It is 4 o'clock and you had enough day, so the group would like me to thank you, the spectators, so big round of applause to you. I would like to thank the actors.